The tension in the room is almost tangible. Charlie Kirk takes center stage, armed with sharp arguments and an unshakable confidence, ready to confront one of the most polarizing topics of our time, woke culture. With every sentence, he tears apart the contradictions, hypocrisies, and weaknesses that many refuse to even question. His tone is calm but relentless, his points cutting through the noise like a blade. This isn't just a debate, it's a masterclass in exposing flawed ideas and defending the core values that many feel are under siege. We will start with Charlie Kirk stepping into gender cage match, and this one gets real awkward, real fast. We've got a student here who's clearly eager to understand the whole two-gender argument, but things unravel quicker than a cheap sweater at a yard sale.
You guys think... I just want to hear your guys' points. Like, why you guys
which
think
one?
There are only two genders.
How many genders do you think there are?
I mean, I think it is a very, like, upcoming fluid. I mean, my best friend is asexual and transgender, and I personally think that's a very fluid term. I think sex is very concrete, but I guess I just want to know, like, are you guys saying that if someone were to claim that they were a gender that did not, like, confined to, like, being female and male, like, are you saying that that's inherently wrong?
I'll say there's only two genders. Gender and sex are directly related, and if someone claims a different gender, they're very confused. And your chromosomal structure should dictate your gender.
Interesting. Okay.
But if you were to put a number, like, I say two genders, how many, like, don't you think we should have a number? Like, to say it's fluid, isn't that kind of, like, concerning? What if it's 60 or...
I guess, I don't know. I mean, personally, in my mind, it's like, I guess I just don't understand how someone who could, like, tell other people...
I'm not telling anyone anything. I'm making a biological observation.
Well, I think sex is different from gender. I think those two. I think.
Why would you think that?
I think you're born a sex, and the sex is based off of the biological.
Sure. But what makes you think that?
I think it's not only how I've grown up, but, like, I've also, like, I went to an all-girls school, and so I experienced the idea.
But you said all girls. What makes you think they're girls? Like, what makes them girls?
Well, that's the thing, is that we've had a couple people who obviously recently have started to claim that, you know, they don't identify as a girl.
So I could attend your school you grew up in? Would that be okay?
I mean, claiming, I guess it's, see, it's hard, because I guess it's hard for people who don't necessarily feel, like, for me, like, I feel I was born a female, I identify as female. It's hard for me to judge other people who maybe...
But if I said I identified as a female, you'd be cool if I went to your school you grew up with?
Well, I mean, yes. Because,
really?
Yes,
okay.
I personally would.
Even though my chromosomal structure is XY, not XX?
Totally.
So you think so I should be allowed in your locker room then?
I mean, personally, I think that... Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So, like, 13-year-old girls with 13-year-old guys, perfectly cool.
But you're not a guy. You're a girl if you identify as a girl.
Well, maybe I am. Maybe I'm a guy. Why are you assuming my gender? Do you see where things can get into utter and total chaos and confusion rather quickly?
I guess.
See, here's the problem is I will definitively say there's two genders, and the opposition, they can't come to a number. And that's rather biologically inconsistent and concerning.
Kirk's closing argument is essentially, two genders is clean, simple, and scientifically consistent. Anything else? Total chaos. He points out the opposition's inability to settle on a number, and honestly, it's a fair jab. The student's case for fluidity gets tangled in contradictions faster than headphones in a pocket. Next, Charlie Kirk enters another heated Q&A, and this time, it's about Michael Knowles' infamous eradicate transgenderism comment. As always, Kirk is locked and loaded with quick-fire arguments and a crowd of enthusiastic supporters.
All right, hey, so I know you're buddy-buddy with Michael Knowles. Recently, he said the phrase, quote, we should eradicate transgenderism. And
that is correct. Yeah, you got it right.
So I know you
From
agree with
public
him.
life, yeah.
I know you agree with him on some level. How would you go about that? How do you eliminate transgenderism without
Yep.
eliminating transgenders?
Guys, okay, I warned you about this. I love the passion. Let the process play out, okay? Jeez. So specifically, he said transgenderism, right, which is an ideology, and he said
they're intertwined, like Judaism and Jewish people, like.
Well,
they're
hold on.
hand in
He
hand.
said from public life, okay? So, yeah, that's not the best example. It's just don't use that one. But let me kind of zero in on this. Yeah, I do agree with it 100%. The best way is that we should not be platforming or acting as if a mental delusion is normal, good for children, or something that is acceptable in decent society.
So, in what way is it? Okay, so throughout history, we've had these medical breakthroughs where we learn that things are just like how people are, you know. Who's to say that somebody is not born the wrong gender? Like, what is there? So I'm
Do it
just
again,
asking,
we're going to have to kick you out. Please don't interrupt.
how do you know that what's happening right now isn't like a medical breakthrough? How do you know it is a mental illness to be eradicated?
Yeah, 5,000 years of recorded history and common sense that men can't
But
give
back
birth.
in history, were there not like skeletons being dug up with female artifacts around them? Were there not sculptures of two married women? I mean, it's been a thing forever. It's been, transgenderism,
Let's play
anything
this out.
LGBTQ.
So how do I know that biological reality is true? Chromosomes.
I'm not arguing about biological reality.
Yeah, my chromosomes instruct my opinion first and foremost. So XX, XY chromosomes, and I reject the term gender. Actually, it's sex, and you have a sex at birth, and you cannot change that. So let me just kind of ask a question. Medical advancements, the medical community can be very wrong. We used to do lobotomies, and I'm glad we stopped doing that. So doctors have been wrong before, and in fact, doctors have been wrong about a lot of things over the last 100 years. And in fact, if all of a sudden the medical consensus from the AMA, which is headquartered right down the street, by the way, is that we have to have these pediatric gender-affirming reassignment clinics that have breast reduction surgery or literally mastectomies for 12 or 13-year-olds to then assign them Lupron, estrogen, and testosterone treatment for somebody that might just be going through puberty and having anxiousness and unease, I'm probably going to call that doctor a fraud, and any person with common sense should do that too.
Okay, super quick. Last thing.
The debate takes a sharp turn to athletics, with Kirk focusing on trans swimmer Leah Thomas. He criticizes the NCAA for allowing Thomas to compete in women's sports, framing it as a violation of fairness. His arguments center on biology, bone density, and testosterone production, and he accuses Thomas of being a narcissist and a cheat.
So, my main question was about the term eradicate transgenderism.
Yeah, sure. So can I give you some examples?
Yeah, sure.
We shouldn't teach it in our schools. We also shouldn't allow men to compete against women in NCAA sports. Okay.
What about the people who are transgender that have converted, are currently
How about
transgender?
this? So why
Would you
couldn't-
forcefully detransition them?
Yeah, how
or
about
what's the plan?
why couldn't Thomas still compete against men despite his mental delusion? Why do we have to reaccommodate all female sports for a single individual that obviously has an advantage with bone density and testosterone production? Why is it now our problem? Why does society have to reorganize and reconfigure for one very loud, obviously disturbed person? Wouldn't it be more fair to say, okay, you have a problem, so keep competing in the category that you were born to? You can still wear whatever you want, I guess, and dress and do the treatments you want, but since you're such an excellent swimmer, go swim against boys. Oh, because he's a narcissist and he used to finish 200 against boys, and when he competes against girls, he wins the championship because he's a cheat. Because it's all about him, not about the competition or about fairness.
His solution: don't force society to reorganize around transgender individuals. He suggests trans people compete in their birth sex category while dressing or presenting however they wish. It's a stance that's likely to resonate with his base, but may feel dismissive or oversimplified to those who disagree. Next, Charlie Kirk tackles a respectful and prepared question from a student, Aaron, about transgender youth and the policies surrounding medical intervention. The debate touches on sensitive topics such as mental health, suicide rates, and age-appropriate treatments, with both sides aiming to present thoughtful arguments.
Hi, Mr. Kirk. I'm Aaron, and I'm a student here. I want to start off by saying I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to discuss these issues with you, and want to say that though our beliefs differ greatly, I still think it's awesome to be able to converse with you respectfully. For anyone recording me, please put me in an SJW cringe compilation. That's part of my childhood.
Oh, okay, good. I think we can arrange that.
But here's what I want to ask you about. Trans youth experience extremely high suicide rates, and trans youth who transition, receive hormone therapy or surgery have significantly decreased rates of suicide, according to studies by Turbin et al. And Almazan Karoglian et al. In fact, this effect becomes stronger the earlier they receive the surgery or hormone therapy, according to the same studies. Additionally, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders suggests treating gender dysphoria with transition, hormone therapy, or surgery. So I guess just from a purely practical standpoint, regardless of political belief or what you think about trans people, wouldn't it be a good thing to allow access to these surgeries, just sort of empirically?
Sure, let me first ask you a question. Why was there not a trans suicide issue in the 90s?
Are you sure that there wasn't? It's very possible that the publicization and destigmatization of transgenderism now is making it so that people who might have committed suicide before. Yes.
So the one thing we can agree on is people need help, right? I think the best way to help somebody that's suffering under a delusion is cognitive-based therapy and non-chemical, non-pharmacological interventions. You'd probably agree to be able to have counseling therapy. For example, if a girl's 11 years old and she's experiencing puberty or her father's not around and she might think she's a boy, wouldn't it be more loving to say, hey, let's go through some therapy to actually get you back into alignment with your biological reality, not put you on Lupron or chemical castration or irreversible surgical methods? That would probably be rational, right?
I think that if it were possible to reduce these feelings by, cognitive behavioral therapy and things like that, I would definitely think that would be great. But I guess research also shows that rejecting gender identity in youth typically also increases suicide rate.
So let me ask you another question. Do you think that people that are suffering under the mental delusion of transgenderism might have other underlying mental health issues?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, so it's not fair necessarily to connect transgenderism with suicide. It might be somebody that's suffering under gender dysphoria and also a heavy dose of depression, schizophrenia, anxiety, bipolar disorder, right?
Kirk advocates for cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and non-invasive methods as alternatives to medical treatments like hormone therapy and surgeries. He emphasizes the reversibility of therapy compared to the permanent effects of medical interventions, particularly for minors. His argument appeals to the principle of first, do no harm.
Yeah, but just empirically, allowing access to trans or gender-affirming surgery does reduce that suicide
Not necessarily. Rate. So after 6 years, there's a big thing called transition regret. We know 35,000 young people that are now vocally saying they regret medically mutilating themselves. And there is no reverse switch on that. So again, wouldn't it be rational to do what is reversible, which is just cognitive behavioral therapy, not what is irreversible to a 12-year-old that might be going through a temporary puberty-driven crisis? Wouldn't that be a more loving, rational way of going about it? Because what we have now is a boom industry of quote-unquote gender-affirming care clinics and pediatric gender clinics for 12, 13, and 14-year-olds, some of which, by the way, do not require parental consent, of a 13-year-old that might make a mistake. And I think you would agree, you made mistakes when you were 13 years old, right?
Of course, of course.
Yeah, so shouldn't we have a healthcare system and laws that reflect trying to protect the innocence of a 13-year-old, not trying to incentivize their mistakes where they can't reverse that decision later in life?
Kirk introduces the issue of transition regret, citing reports from detransitioners who regret their surgeries. He claims this group is growing and suggests that regret underscores the need for caution, especially with irreversible procedures.
I definitely agree that there are certainly people who do regret these surgeries, and I don't think that's something we should minimize. But at the same time, there are also hundreds of thousands of people who don't regret these surgeries, and I guess overall.
So then maybe they should wait till they're 18. I think that's the whole crux of this, right? So you got 12, 13, 14, 15, and then I would have a separate moral question on that, right? Even when they're 18. But we're focusing on the pediatric element, right? Which I think is important. And let me just kind of reemphasize this, which I think is the question. Let me actually ask you this. Is there an age that's too young in your opinion? If a 6-year-old says, I think I'm a boy, do you think it might be too young to do surgery on them?
You know, I think it's important for me to admit that I don't really know, but I do think
I appreciate the honesty. But you would probably say 6-year-old, ooh, too much, right?
I honestly wouldn't know. I wouldn't say one or the other, but I would say that, I guess, over 18. How do we say? What do you think?
So let's close every pediatric gender clinic in America and stop the chemical castration of our youth, which is exactly where we were 10 years ago. I think we found a lot of agreement, my friend.
Oh, sorry?
I think we found agreement.
I don't really know either way on that one, but I guess over 8.
The debate circles back to the crux of the issue, age and reversibility. Kirk's closing argument centers on the need to protect minors from irreversible decisions while acknowledging the importance of support and care for struggling youth. Aaron reiterates concerns about suicide rates, but leaves the age question open, signaling the complexity of the issue.
The crux of the debate in America today is focused on children. Teenagers make mistakes. Teenagers go through identity crises. Teenagers are susceptible to social contagions. Teenagers are susceptible to peer pressure or for other influences. And the laws and the culture should reflect, let's say, an atmosphere that respects the innocence of the child and says once you are of adulthood, you have certain agency and ability. I might disagree with that, but I don't want to live in a country where an 11-year-old might be misled by a gender psychiatrist, has their breast chopped off, and wants to have that reversed in 8 years. I don't think that is loving. I think that's cruel.
I guess I still raise the issue of, in total, the number of people who are committing suicide would probably be reduced if we allowed these surgeries.
Not necessarily. So in the short term, yes. When you administer testosterone replacement therapy, you get a boost in self-esteem, you get a temporary boost in mental clarity, but that actually tapers after about 5 or 6 years, which is why you see the transitioner community increasing. I could see you're coming after this from a good place, but I want you to think about this in the days and the weeks, and all of you to think, how young is too young? I think that if you are in the teenage age, 12, 13, 14, and we're trying to say that we are so advanced, we're gonna prescribe Lupron, which was called too inhumane for rapists in prison, to young boys that effectively chemically castrate themselves. I think it is a rational moral argument to say, let's make sure we don't do something irreversible to somebody that might be preyed upon. I think that's rather fair and reasonable. Unfortunately, that's considered radical enough where you have Antifa show.
This debate highlights the difficulty of finding common ground on polarizing issues. Kirk effectively frames his arguments around protecting children and questioning medical practices, while Aaron introduces important data and acknowledges complexities. Both sides contribute valuable perspectives, but the debate ultimately underscores the need for ongoing dialogue informed by empathy, evidence, and a shared commitment to the well-being of youth. What do you think? Are these cultural shifts worth defending? Or is it time to push back and stand up for the values that have shaped us? Let your voice be heard. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more deep dives like this, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this perspective.